Oh, The Sims. How I loathe you, but how I love you. You took countless hours from my youth. As a child, I started with The Sims 1 on the original Xbox. I learned how addicting it could be to watch and learn your Sims grow and change into responsible things. Many years later, I actually stepped my first foray into The Sims proper, The Sims 3. I played that game for hours at a time, exploring and finding new things around the game in the World Adventures expansion, and of course being a mastermind criminal with millions of dollars at my disposal. There were times where I escaped for days at a time, taking care of my Sims but truly neglecting care for myself. This game was actually one of my better memories as a teen. After my recent stream of beating a challenge run, I got the itch to do another one. And what a better way than to return to a franchise that I love so much. I thought, what if I started with nothing other than a plot of land with just a lonely mailbox? However, I wanted a little bit more of a challenge. What if I was a teen who had to go to school, still taking time out of my day just as a normal job would, but without the benefit of earning a wage? So in turn, Outdoorsman was born. At the start of The Sims 4, it gives you quite a bit of money to start with, hoping that you change your land into a beautiful starting home. But yeah, I can't have that. The only way I could truly spend this money is with knowledge. And yes, of course, to throw it all away, but I still had a few bucks left, so I ordered some food and just let it stay on the sidewalk for Mother Nature to consume. So it begins. I wasted no time looking for things to forage, thinking maybe I could get some good items to turn and make a profit. With this arduous task, I traveled our city block, finding loose dirt to find rocks, plants that grew in the wild, and the occasional log for finding worms and bugs. Mother Nature would be our caregiver, one that would give us life. I took up fishing, thinking that, maybe I could catch and cook our own food so I wouldn't have to spend money on takeout or hot dogs. Ew! I spent our first night under the stars thinking of our lives and what I wanted to become. Laying on that bench next to that ship, our imagination went wild. Dreams of being an archaeologist or a world-renowned fisher. Oh, how different our lives would be. But I knew our hopes would be to live in a life of luxury, living in a home of opulence, and to sleep in a bed more comfortable than this. Over time, I became better at foraging and fishing, but that led us to be fatigued and dirty. So this is where our first real hurdle shows. As I look around, I've already declared one bench to be our spot to take naps, but there wasn't really anywhere to clean ourselves. If I went to school dirty, people would laugh and be cruel and make outdoorsmen depressed for the next whole day. Oh, but it was truly joyous that I was able to actually afford a sink. Some things in The Sims just make sense. I work hard, I get my clothing dirty, I work up a sweat and a visible stench. And with a few times of just washing my hands, I was clean. But I just dirty them all up again. Finally, our hygiene needs are now covered. But I also needed a place that, wasn't made of wood where I could actually get some sleep away from the outside world. I found a tent available for purchase, but it was too much for now. So our lovely bench will do. After a while, I realized fishing really wasn't giving me the return that I was hoping for, and I started to get treasure maps with foraging. So I started focusing on that. But that's not the only thing I had to do. Throughout this whole time, I had to graduate school. And to do that, I needed to perform duties and do homework. Most of the time, I made that my priority, since I wanted the time school was taking from me in order to forage for more items and expand my home. Soon, it was a cycle day in and day out, living the monotonous but stressful life of living from soil to soil. Day in and day out, working my fingers to the bone just to find shiny rocks in the ground to make enough to eat hot dogs. I made a steady profit, for it was just enough to buy food. However, I did make use of the free food wherever I could find it. Ah, who's this? A new person at the park? And look, they made more food than they could eat. So like a vulture, looking for prey, I pounced. It did make Outdoorsman happy to have another person to talk to. After that night of conversation and dinner, I realized that this day could be the last day I slept uncovered under the stars. The tent that I've been eyeing was finally in our grasp, and I acquired our first little piece of land to call our own. After gathering more rocks and plants to feed into this cycle of giving and taking, I purchased my first fire pit and a log to sit on. It was finally ours. This plot of land that I called home was starting to feel just like that word. The fire pit was lit and time for a celebration. I made hot dogs, but I lived in comfort for the first time. The attention to our schoolwork was ever more fervent. I knew that I needed to escape that school to focus on Mother Nature. After school one day, I finally became a better student and I wanted to reward ourselves with something fun. And bam, the horseshoe game enters the match. I knew that we had to give back to the land that has given us so much. So we also got some pots to plant some new flowers in. We soon persevered and obtained a shower. So for once we could seem like a normal person aiming for higher cleanliness and the hopes of not cleaning our hands raw. Soon after, I realized I've been working with my hands in the dirt for so long. Maybe we could make things to sell and moved away from just relying upon the dirt and the land. Onto our first woodworking project. I kept looking at our options. Stools would be nice, but no, the land gave us life. So let's make something that I can sell to others to experience the same joy that I have. The garden planter. Once I made one, it was crude and rough, but it held sentimental value, so I kept our first creation. Lilith Vittoria started showing up regularly now, and talked to me while I was at my fire pit, and over time, we made a nice foundation of a relationship, albeit she was a bit eccentric, since she only showed up at night. Although outdoorsmen didn't really care, for I have my plants and my planters to keep me company. Once I harvested our first lilies, I held on to them, hoping that I could have something beautiful in our little site, until I saw what they sold for, a tremendous amount of cash. Now, I've heard of the term cash crop, but I never really knew that we had the motherlode just in our backyard. Soon, this seedling idea would become a lifelong obsession with lilies. I knew what our life was going to become. I cared for those plants and made more planters, steadily growing my plant empire. I had enough money to finally make ourselves an indoor bathroom. I moved our sink and shower inside to finally have some privacy. I was growing in this world, first a seedling ever reaching higher to the sun, gleaming what I can to flourish into the plant I knew I could be. Day after day, I cared for our plants, weeding and watering them until I could evolve the plants as a better breed that in turn could sell for a higher profit. I knew I needed more plants to finally get a home, so I made even more planters, but soon realized with school, sleep, tending to the plants, making planters and homework, the size of our garden became too large for just myself. So in comes our first employee, the gardener. And I thought, wait, I have the money, but no time. Let's finally enjoy this capitalist mindset. Why make planters when I could just buy them? Our product isn't the planters themselves, but the plants. In time, our garden grew to almost 3 to 4 times the size of our original farm. Another roadblock. Our gardener wouldn't plant the new lilies, so that task was still on myself. I didn't mind at first. I did this before, I thought, but it was more tedious than I originally thought. And soon, that slow, multiple day task was finally done, and our lilies were all planted. Even with the combined force of me and the gardener, we couldn't tend to more plants. So we stopped planting more, just tended to what we had. Our current supply was more than enough for our own needs, making almost 100,000 per harvest. It was finally time to fulfill our goals and take part of the Sims Elite. I soon commissioned a home to be built with all the best things money could afford. Making a garden with topiary fences with a window overlooking through the office. I didn't want to push Mother Earth out of our lives after she took care of us for the past couple weeks or so. I made a pond with trees and a pool beside it. I knew I didn't want anyone else here looking in, So we put bushes all around the edges of our lot just to keep the people who want to steal our lilies out. I made a grand hall with VR games, expensive equipment for our new lifestyle, with paintings adoring our halls, ornate pillars making our home as fancy as possible. I added an outdoor grill to remind me of our start, a kitchen, our own bed, and a true indoor bathroom. On the outside, I built a rocket pad, thinking that once a plant has made the roots nice and deep, the only way to move is up. Now, after all of that, I felt like my time here was well spent, and felt as if I accomplished my lifelong aspiration to have anything I wanted. The world was my flower bed, so to speak, to trim and choose what I wanted. But even with all these items and money, I still missed the comfort of my little home. The wants of the world were too loud and busy. I went to the place that I knew loved me just as I loved it, Mother Nature. As I was building my home, I knew I truly couldn't let go of where I started. So in the backyard, beyond the pond, under the trees, hidden in obscurity, I took my rest, and I knew things were okay being simple, just as the flower is content with just being. Hey guys, thank you for watching. I had a blast making this video. It actually was one of my first ever fully scripted and edited videos. I do plan on making more of these types of videos, and I stream on Twitch now. In this video, I mentioned that I finished a challenge run over on my stream. Yes, it was super fun, but currently, I'm editing that video right now so you could also see it. It was a Monster Hunter Rise Can You Beat Without Being Hit? And I was really excited to show you this one. I do have a bunch more ideas for challenge runs that I want to do, as well as make videos, but if you ever want to see me do them live, I'm over at twitch.tv/Amintech, and I would love to see you then. Oh, and if there's any ideas that you would like to see me do for challenge runs, just go down in the comments and write it, and I can see if I could do them. Thank you once again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and this is your second reminder to please leave a like. Have a great day. See you later. Oh, also, if you have any ideas of fucking shitballs